it's a moment of great pleasure that we are going to be presenting Shakti in their farewell tour this evening. But they've also been kind enough to come and speak about their journey. So welcome JohnMcLaughlin, Zakir Hussain, Shankar Mahadevan, Ganesh Rajagopalan, and Selvaganesh. They will be in conversation with Arunabha Deb.
Adesh hai. No, because the moderator should be there.
No, so I'll be at the side. Ustadji, I'll. The moderator.
He's the moderator.
I'll just take the last one.
So,
Thank you so much again for doing this, and I hope the journey was all right.
monitoring on stage.
Don't look at the watch.
Airplane mode.
Don't look at the watch.
I won't, as long as you won't.
Go and sit in the moderator. Shankar ji.
There is.
Listen to me.
Oh, who in is it? Not possible. We are the elders. As long as they don't. The golden old.
Oh, no.
Elder is acceptable.
Yeah, we are the elders, so we're sitting in the middle. Oh,
We are
yes.
not the old.
Jale Sabada.
We need some monitoring here. Can we turn this one speaker here? Yeah, this one.
There is one back there and one back there. Just put us all in the monitor. And if there are questions, there's going to be a mic out there, right?
There will be, yes.
So that should also be in the monitor.
Oh. Good afternoon. I think all of you will agree that it cannot get better than this. It's a winter afternoon in Calcutta. It's a fabulous backdrop and the world's best musicians in Calcutta.
That's worth $5 to him. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's getting expensive.
Many of you may have seen this short video clip that found its way into several phones over the last couple of days. It features JohnMcLaughlin, Ustad Zakir Hussain, and Pandit Vikku Vinayakram. It was shot in Bombay, where they performed a couple of days ago. And for those of you who haven't seen it, very quickly, it starts with JohnMcLaughlin and Vikku Vinayakram meeting each other. It's quite evident that the excitement is understandable, but yeah. So it starts with JohnMcLaughlin and Vikku Vinayakram meeting each other. It's quite evident that they're meeting after a long time. The joy and the warmth in the meeting is infectious. It'll jump out of the screen and consume you. After initial hugs, etc., JohnMcLaughlin tells Vikku Vinayakram, we have a press conference, chit-chat with the press. But Vikku Vinayakram doesn't say anything. He smiles. Few seconds pass. He still doesn't say anything. He continues smiling. And then suddenly, and quite simply, he breaks into reciting a bowl. JohnMcLaughlin joins in. They hold hands, do a short dance, and we see them walking away. The video cuts to Ustadji joining them, and together they recite that immortal Konakol that starts off Le Danse de Bonheur. Pardon my French, quite literally. But for me, but for me, nothing embodies the ethos of Shakti more than the short video clip. You don't need words between two people to create an instant flash of joy. The barriers of language, of cultures, of countries are made irrelevant. The only language they need is that of music, and they've brought a world full of people together over the last 50 years. Several generations of musicians and music lovers. For them, Shakti, of course, embodies the highest form of music, unprecedented music. But it also and equally embodies love, generosity, and open-mindedness. And it is that legacy of having spread universal joy over the last 50 years that we are really celebrating today. It is our privilege, and of course, an incomparable honor for me, to welcome them to our beloved city and to the Kolkata Literary Meet 2023. I'll try to keep my questions super short so we get to hear who we come to hear. I'll start with you, Mr. McLaughlin. All great characters have an origin story. Simple question, if you can tell us, if you remember how and when you met Ustadji, what happened, what followed?
Zakir Bhai,
Yes, yes.
have you 45 minutes? Or you have to- How do I make the short version? The short version. We met in a music shop in Greenwich Village in New York, where I had asked the owner to let me know if one of the great Indian musicians would be passing through, and he was, because I wanted a lesson in Indian music. I was already at the end of the 60s studying Indian music, north-south. I was hungry for information. And they called, and there was Zakir Bhai in the shop, ready to give me a vocal lesson. Amazing. I don't even sing. But neither do I. But this is how we met. And we met in the shop, and he gave me a vocal lesson. Amazing when you don't sing. But we had lots of laughs after, because, although he definitely sings better than I do, I have to say. But something happened between us in that meeting, and we continued to stay in touch in spite of the fact that Zakir Bhai was living in California, I was living in New York. And the really crucial meeting, I would say, happened in 1972 when I was in California playing music, and there was a charity show, I think, that was for the Ali Akbar College of Music, where Zakir Bhai was a teacher. And Zakir Bhai came to the concert in Los Angeles, and then the following day we flew up to Ali Akbar Khan Sahib wanted to say hello, and I was delighted to meet this marvelous musician. And we had dinner there, and then we sat down, and I noticed that he had his tabla, and I had an acoustic guitar, so I said, "Wanna jam?" Very pretentious, but that was the attitude in the 60s or 70s. It was much freer. I'd already been studying Indian music, so I thought it would be worth a shot. And we sat down and played. And in the space of 5 minutes, it was one of the greatest experiences for me. And in my personal opinion, things happened subsequently with Al Shankar and with the Mridangam player of my guru, Dr. Ramanathan. But that meeting was, in my heart, the principal foundation behind forming of Shakti.
Thank you very much. Ustadji, from your perspective, if we can just hear what it was like for you, the same meeting, and what followed, and how Shakti was born, and we can go on to the other questions after that.
Well, I would like to start with, how should I say, telling you all that, not the best musicians in the world sitting up here on the stage. There are many such great musicians. We are some of the good ones. And the music does not stop here. It begins here and taken up by the greater musicians, best musicians, better musicians, onwards. So let's not forget, and let's take a bow to give a bow to two great ones who passed recently, Mr. Jeff Beck and Mr. David Crosby. Indeed, yes. So everything that John G said is correct except for one thing, and that is he gave me too much credit. No singing, nothing. But when we did sit down to play in front of the great Ustad Ali Akbar Khan Sahab, a daunting task for anybody. But it felt like it was right. It felt it was correct. It felt that this had happened before. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I don't believe in anything being perfect, but if anything came close, in terms of a musical conversation, that was it. And so, yes, and John G, as we all call him, or Bhai, had, he took upon himself the task of bringing me and El Shankar, all of us together, and Raghavanji, to come and play in New York, and the journey began, and it continues
Yes.
now.
Thank you, Saji. Shankarji, if I can just come to you. I was reading an article in Rolling Stone India. It's a very comprehensive article commemorating this tour, where, Johnji, you said that Shakti needed a singer when it was bringing itself together again for Remember Shakti.
Yes.
So, and we are so lucky that the singer was you for all of us, and I'm sure.
Me too.
What was it like? You were entering a space that was already quite well defined in terms of its aesthetics and essentially an instrumental only ensemble. Was it an easy entry, or did it take some time to adjust and figure out how to sort of place yourself in that context?
See, I used to live in a small suburb called Chembur, and there was this cassette shop. Those days were cassettes, And we used to go and give our Sony C90 cassettes to them to record albums and give it to us. Those days they used to record and give it to us. And Shakti was one of those albums. And Natural Elements, of course, and all the other albums. We used to get it, put it in a 2-in-1, and almost study it like a course, It was almost like, what is this? And how can anybody play music like this? It was like a university in itself, and learning a lot. And then my intention was just to meet these gentlemen and at least take one picture. Kabhi na kabhi to ho sakta. If they come to India, I missed their concert when they came to India and played at the Cooperage. But as luck would have it, I think my intention was very strong. After 30 years, I was sitting with them on stage. Thanks to the maestros, they thought that I was worthy enough to sing with them. And this is, whenever a Shakti tour comes up or a few concerts are being planned, it's like pulling up your socks and getting ready. It's like, oh my God, now is the time for the riyaz, for the practice, for precision, for sur, for speed, for accuracy and attentiveness. In this band, you've got to be extremely attentive. And for a vocalist, it's a bit of a challenge because, you have to hit the notes with your vocal cords. It's easier said than done. Somehow, it's happening, and I thank them for that. That's all I can say. But if you're saying, have I adjusted? I can't have a more happier experience than being with them, because they're such amazing maestros that they allow you to shine on stage. So that is the sign of a great artist. When you are being featured, when you do your solo, because it's 20% of the music is set and the 80% happens on stage there. It's eye contact, it is laughing, it's capturing that rhythmic moment and developing on that. So when that happens, when you're soloing yourself, these people, they give you that beautiful cushion, that bed to relax on and to take your music forward. Because when it's their turn, they shine. So that's what Shakti is all about.
Because fantastic their turn, they shine. I'll come back to something you mentioned about the virtuosity, accuracy, technicality in a bit, but I'll just come to V. Selvaganesh ji. A lot of us will remember a couple of years ago, they were at Dover Lane, completely brought the house down. I remember after the concert, everywhere outside Nazrul Manch, food stalls, in the bathrooms, everyone was going Takadimu Takajuna, and it's just all consuming. So you're filling very big shoes in this band. That's, I'm sure, an obvious question. But as far as, there was Pranat Viku Vinayakram, now you've come in with the Kanjira. So the question really is, of course, in terms of, there's no question of replacing anyone. It's different artists who carry on a different legacy. But as far as coming in with the Kanjira, which is a different sort of, adds a different element to a familiar soundscape. How was that in terms of figuring out how to fit in?
I mean, I not just play the kanjira in this group actually. I do play the mridangam and ghatam. But, I mean, Johnji was saying it, like he met Zakir Bhai in 1972. That was the year I born. And the first music which I heard was Shakti. Because 76, 78, when they toured, my dad still he does that. Like he used to record his concert, and then he will hear it, and then he will find his mistake, and then replay. So when he comes back home, and he was playing that music which they were touring it to my grandfather. And so when I was a kid, 3-4 year kid, so that was my first music which I heard it. And joining in Shakti, like, and I still have one, I mean, I couldn't even believe it, because I know Johnji has a photo. When they were playing in Chennai, the original Shakti, I was on stage behind with my school uniform.
8 years old.
Yeah, 8 years old. I was standing, and so how can I believe that I can be on this group, like, you know? And in 1999, I was touring with Zakir Bhai in Masters of Percussion with Ganeshji and Kumareshji in Paris, Theatre de la Ville. Johnji showed up. Actually, I didn't know that I'm going to be part of this group, and he just came there to auditioning me. So that day, Johnji, I mean, Zakir Bhai said, play well. I said, okay. So I did that, and then after the concert in the green room, Zakir Bhai asked Johnji, and then Johnji, yes. Then Zakir Bhai said, end of this year, we are touring. Oh, he said, Masters of Percussion? No, Shakti, remember Shakti. I didn't get, what did he say? He said, remember Shakti. That's what it is. And I'm here, and I'm still learning. The way they look the music, they will like, I mean, everything, like, you know, it's a learning process. Even just now, Johnji was saying, see, Zakir Hussain, ZZ. See, this is like, you know, that's the way they think and they see, like, you know, it's all like that. So I'm just learning.
Right. Thank you.
Can I just say, there's one very short point that Zakir Bhai reminded me the other day, is that after Vikoji and to find our Salvaji here is the unbroken line.
Right.
So in a sense, Vikoji is still here, but he's here in spirit, but also the spirit of, because Selvaganesh, with the Kanjira you're speaking of, he has pushed the envelope
Exactly.
in the technique and concept of Kanjira to a completely new level. So, but this fact that is this line coming from the 1970s all the way to 21st century.
Yeah, and not to mention the fact that he does everything and more with one hand than we do with two. And, you know, it's just an impossible thing that he accomplishes. And I hate him.
Ganeshji, I come to you last only because of chronology, in terms of how one entered the band for no other reason. If you could just share your experiences of how you joined Shakti and how it's been for you since then.
Thank you, and good morning to all of you. What can I say? It's just a privilege and honor, definitely. And I've been what learned and progressed from the music of Shakti and what Zakirji played. And I've been very fortunate to have Vikuji playing with me from the age of 14, 15 and all that. So
You mean he was 14, 15?
I was not born at that time. So, and to hear the anecdotes, the stories of what Shakti is all about, the music, definitely, and learn from that, and learn from Vikuji, learn from Zakirji, playing with them. It's every time I play is a learning experience. So, and joining this is like, I think there's been a connection from the beginning, so that got happened.
Thank you. Speaking of the violin, Johnji, Ustadji, whoever wants to take this question, I just have a curiosity. I keep reading that when L. Shankarji was part of the band initially, and then when you were reviving, you couldn't get in touch with him, apparently. So I was just wondering how impossibly elusive must a man be that Zakir Hussain and John McLaughlin can't get in touch with him.
Take it out.
It wasn't the age of cell phone in those days.
No, but I don't really have an answer to your question.
All right,
How can somebody disappear? What's very mysterious, because it happened over at least a couple of months.
Yeah.
Zakir and I, there was no phone, there was no internet, but there was fax and telephone, and we left numerous messages on his answering machine and faxes, and never any kind of answer. That said, in a way, although it was fantastic in the 70s with the violin, it was a blessing in disguise, because from that point, Zakir and I, we sat down, we said, we need to find someone. And at that point, we invited the wonderful Srinivas on mandolin.
And in deference to L. Shankar, we did not want to, at that moment, we did not feel that we could replace L. Shankar. So it had to be somebody different, not violent, just somebody who brought the same energy and the same, musical story to the group, but in a different sonic element. So, and Srinivas ji, an angel sent down here for us to listen to and realize what exists up there, was with us, and it was an experience that elevated the idea of Shakti to the level that it needed to get to at that point.
Just add one thing, because in the very beginning, when I met L. Shankar, while I was actually studying with Dr. Ramanathan, he was a violin player, and my mother played violin, so I have this affection for violin. So while it was impossible to replace with another violin, just the thought, the idea, and we were so happy with Srinivas ji. The fact that we now have Ganesh ji in the group, actually we go back at least 20 years, where we played together with his brother, 24 years with his brother Kumaresh ji, the two violins, and Zakir, and we had a concert together in southern France. So I have many happy memories from them. But the fact that we have a violin again in the band makes me personally very happy.
Full circle. No, I'm so glad, because I would have was coming to mention the late and legendary U. Srinivas ji, because he was such an important part of the Shakti journey. And of course, it was a very untimely death, and we miss him all the time. But I'm so glad that we're remembering him today when you're celebrating your 50 years. Shankar ji, I'll come to you, because you mentioned that bit about the accuracy and the technicality and the virtuosity that's unavoidable when you want to perform at this level. But I think for a lot of listeners, when one listens to Shakti, the effort is not evident at all. And what you really see is an aesthetic whole, so to say. You don't see the hard work that goes in. So it may be a silly question, and pardon me for that, but how impossibly difficult is it to hide that effort for an artist?
More than effort, I think. I think to execute anything perfectly, you have to put in that kind of effort, concentration, and be in that moment 100%. Otherwise, it's not possible. But at least, even I'll give you an example. I mean, when you're composing a difficult melody, for example, even if it's a Bollywood film song, when you hear that song, when you hear great S.D. Burman or Salil Chaudhary or Madan Mohan, you hear their great melodies. When you hear it, you feel that, oh, even I can do it. It may be simple, but when you actually go to do it, that's when you realize how difficult it is, So I think the whole idea is to do it effortlessly. So to do it effortlessly, you need to practice that many number of times and spend time with them. And I'm still learning and trying to match up to their.
But yes, I mean, a lot of the Shakti melodies and patterns they run at a pretty happening clip. And it is actually an impossible ask in some ways for a vocalist to be able to, you know, do the sargams, you know, solfege, and do it exactly right and in pitch. I mean, you hear the great classical singers of the old times, whether it was Ustad Amir Khan Sahab, or Ustad Bade Ghulam Ali Khan Sahab, or Bhim Sen Joshi ji, and so on. They could do it, and without actually revealing to the people how hard it was to make that happen. I used to wonder, you know, vocalists are just sitting there singing. Why is he sweating? Why is like the kurta drenched in sweat in an air-conditioned concert hall? It's hard work, man. It's there, and so hats off, or wigs off, or whatever, to Maestro Shankar for being able to, you know, deliver night after night after night. And it's hard to keep your voice, you know, totally whole. I mean, you're traveling, you're up late nights, and you're getting an early morning flight, and then the voice to be able to not in any way be affected by all those changes from a hot outside to a cold air-conditioned, and then, yeah, exactly.
Can you have a little less sun in the monitors, please?
Before we open it up to the audience, one question, two questions actually. Is there an album in the offing? And is there a book that we can ever expect on the journey of Shakti?
I am not a writer, sir.
No, actually, we could say that we are working on an album, and
I think every time we play a concert, we are giving our life story. Because it begs the question, when you are improvising and you are in the middle of a piece, what are you really saying? What can any artist, musician say? We can only tell the story of our life, of our internal relationship and the love we share with our colleagues, and the love we share for the people who come to see, and the love we have for the world, for the universe. This is so every one of us is telling our individual life story, but what's wonderful about Shakti is we have a collective life story that we share with everyone. I think this is the autobiography.
Are there any questions from the audience?
Good afternoon. I'm very
Good
glad
afternoon.
to see you here and be in conversation with you. My name is Yura. I'm percussionist from Russia, St. Petersburg. And I'm here in Kolkata because of Pandit Ravi Shankar, and your music is huge, had a huge impact on all Russian musicians. They start playing sitar, sarod, bansuri, tabla, like me, for example. I studied tabla here in Kolkata. And my question is, do you remember your concert in Russia? You had a few concerts in Russia many years ago. I didn't have an opportunity to be there. But how was your experience? How it was?
We played in Russia. We want to know how you felt about it. Yeah, but he wants to know how Shakti.
From my point of view, I have had only wonderful experiences in Russia. For me, it's breaking my heart to see what's going on at the moment, because this is not the Russian people's war, the invasion of Ukraine. This is one man's war, and he's using the Russian resources to fulfill his completely mad dreams of grandeur. My experience, we have been Western Russia, even Siberia, other places, fantastic people, fantastic cultured people, aware musically. And so my experience is the same with whether I'm in India, whether I'm in America or Europe, Germany, anywhere, an audience, a sensitive audience, Russia you find everywhere. just the same. Human beings, we are all the same when confronted with music. We are just, it's a language we all know, and we all recognize, and we all speak.
Is there any other questions?
Hello.
Could we have the mic there at the corner? The lady in pink.
Yeah, just wanted to ask this question to John and to Zakir Bhai as well. My name is Joy Roy Chaudhary. I represent Global Mandala, which is a platform for artists, musicians, and scientists. The question is, when I listen to Shakti and when I see John playing and Zakir Bhai playing, sometimes we get the feel that the instrument which you are playing is an extension of you. There is no other. And I wanted to ask you this while you were entering as well. That's bring the one of the most interesting things which brings the entire spiritual tradition of tabla playing with Asad al-Raka, and we know the connection with Nicky Hart and Grateful Dead and all stuff. So what I'm saying is that, I mean, your experience about the universe you were talking about, how that intense period when it becomes the instrument, not a separate thing that you're playing, but it becomes an extension of your entire body, a consciousness.
I think if the people sense that you and the instrument are not together, there's a problem. Simple as that.
My father told me when I was learning from him, there were every instrument has a spirit inside of it, a living, breathing spirit inside of it. And half the battle in terms of learning music is to be able to have that spirit accept you, befriend you, and bring you in. And if that happens, then the connection with the instrument is almost like a reattachment of an umbilical cord, and you become one body, you become one thought, one soul, one expression. And so that needs to happen. If it's not happening, as John G just said, echoing what he said, then there is a problem. And you must be able to interact, at breakneck speed, as before thought emerges. Both of you must already know what's coming. And so if that happens, then the music flies, then the story is told. I mean, we are not saying anything new. We are telling the same old story that many maestros have told through their instruments, through their voices. But it's just the way we do it, and we express ourselves. And as a collective, each one of our instruments have not only tied itself, the vocal, the violin, the kanjira, ghatam, guitar, tabla, has not just tied to each one of us, but also the spirits have found a way to be able to connect with each other. So Shakti is a live band. It's a band that believes in spontaneity. It believes in thought emerging on stage and then blossoming. And it blossoms because each one of us is not individually attached to instrument, and the spirits are not individually working. It's a collective. And so when that happens, music transcends and into a different level of existence that allows us to, have magic happening. And suddenly, oh, it's been 2 hours. It felt like 5 minutes. And that's it.
One question, please.
Can I just add one thing about that? Because you spoke before about in the late 90s when Zakir Bhai and I were discussing vocalists. By that time, the reason I asked Zakir Bhai, told Zakir Bhai my deep feeling, because I realized at that time that actually the singer is the ultimate instrument. There is nothing in between. And so to find a singer, someone like Shankar, who has such a voice, not only, but what a musical culture he has, and what the most fabulous technique he has. And this, I think, is the ultimate. I think this is why everybody loves singers, because there's nothing in between. There's not an instrument. You are the instrument.
Hello, my name is Shayuni. I just wanted to know, what were the thoughts behind naming the collective Shakti, and were there any other names that you debated on and finally came up with this? What were your thoughts while coming up with it?
You are Indian, I'm not Indian.
Oh, come on.
You know all about
Actually, he's more Indian than any one of us. It's a fact. It's true. I sometimes want to introduce him as Pandit McLaughlin or Ustad John, but, you know, it's true. I mean, it is an impossible thing. I mean, he did not grow up sitting cross-legged and playing doing riyaz for hours or something, but here he is. He sits on stage for an extended amount of time, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and he plays like an Indian musician. He dresses like an Indian musician. He thinks like an Indian musician. He honored this tradition, our tradition, by actually taking the time to learn the tradition, learning the sargams, learning the raga structures, learning the thala structures. He did all that. And so all that came together, you know, it's true. So you are, I mean, I digress from the question, but it's a fact that that our ways of lives, whether it's Shankarji or Ganeshji, Selva Bhai, myself, or Johnji, may differ. We get up and we bow to a different...
Yeah, but Zakir Bhai, he had all the time in the world to do that, because he was only playing with people like Miles Davis and all the other great jazz legends in the world.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, he created an amazing band called Mahavishnu, and then created Shakti all in one lifetime. That's what is John McLaughlin.
Yes. It's kind of, you know...
How can you do that?
Just like, you know, a daily routine sort of a thing.
Yeah, young lady, you are an Indian young lady. I think you can give me a very accurate description of what the word Shakti means. Yeah, it's the creative energy of the universe, which is what drives everything, inspiration, life itself.
Yes, and both energies, yin and yang, female and male energies coming together, and in a unified power, they are none of those energies are any less from each other, and Shakti in some ways embodies that. I guess it represents that energy, and you can feel that when you watch the band play. So that drove the idea, and John G, who was practicing yoga and meditation, and
Shakti the dance.
And Shakti is also the dance. And Shakti is so many things, whether it's Durga or Saraswati, Ganga or Jamuna, and it's a very strong energy.
So if we can make her dance, then we are doing okay, right?
If we are making her dance, I don't think we are doing okay, because we don't want Durga dancing on our heads. That can be quite difficult to deal with. But yes, the whole idea of the energy that it brought, and bowing down to the female aspect of that energy, and how that really empowers, was very important to represent. So Shakti.
We have time for 2 questions. One
And the
here.
first is mine. I have the mic in my hand.
Of course. Sorry. I'm so sorry, sir. I'm so sorry. My apologies.
You'll be happy to know that it's not a question.
My apologies.
You can have 2 questions afterwards. Here is an observation. My respect, my admiration to all of you. And
you're not being heard.
I have been fortunate enough to see you people performing, playing your instruments or singing. And obviously one had totally surrendered to your art and paid all the tribute. But this is the first time when I am listening to you talking about your music, talking about your instruments. I have always believed that music is the poetry of sound. And now I'm very, very happy after listening to you people that you are not doing poetry. It makes me feel very safe and secure. Thank you.
Yes.
We may not be doing, we are trying to get there. It's one of the most incredible art forms to be able to, in words, in one word, be able to explain the universe. And Javed Saab does it so effortlessly. And
Let's
so
have an applause for Javed ji. Come on, let's hear it.
Five of us have collectively have yet to be able to somehow explain or define the couplet that is life through our music. Maybe it will happen. Who knows?
So my name is Jashodhara, and of course I've been listening to your music for 5 decades. But I just wanted to know, you said Shakti is embodying the female principle. Have you ever thought of having a woman performer in your band?
Each one of us have separately performed with women quite regularly. Yes, we have. And so... No.
Can you find me a tabla player, plays like him? A lady?
Yeah, it is only in recent times that social barriers have come down enough for women to be able to interact with men musicians, tour with them, travel with them, play with them. This was something that was in India up till recent time considered taboo, not by musicians, but by social standards, speaking in that way. So that made it difficult. I mean, I just recently toured with the violinist Kala Ramnath and the Veena player Jayanti Kumresh. We toured all over the world, played many concerts, and that was unimaginable 25 years ago. And not because we didn't want to. We played with women. Grew up playing with them. I performed so much with the great Sitara Devi, the Kathak dancer, and Kishori Amonkarji, and Parveen Sultanaji, and so many others. Sharan Rani, the great Sarod maestro of her time. John Bhai has played with so many women musicians.
Yes, well, in the West anyway, women have been for a long time integrated into orchestras and other groups. I've had a number of formations with women musicians in the band. I actually have a formation at the moment, a Western formation at the moment, with women in the group. So it's just that Shakti at the moment is, if you can find me women who can play like these people.
Yeah, I mean, Shakti is this particular musical thought process and energy that delivers it is unique. And if one is there out there, I'm sure there is, when we come across, yes, that will probably happen. John G. and I just recently had a female violin player play with us in Berkeley, Boston, and it was a very special experience. Apurva played with us, and it was really nice. And so there's, you know.
I am trying to help her.
Yeah, and John G is advising her in being able to develop her improvising styles in the Western system as well. So there's miles to go before we sleep, so see what happens.
Last question. Darshanji, you had a question? No? Same question? Okay. So one last question. Yes, he's been raising his hands for a long time. There's no mic. You can go for it.
Maybe.
If there's a mic, I mean.
Here comes the mic.
Yeah, great.
Thank you so much. Like, first of all, I'd like to congratulate the entire team of Shakti for cover crossing a benchmark of 50 years. My age is like a little bit half of the age, so it's a big deal. So my question for you is like, if you guys ever thought that there is another person, male, female, anyone, who could fit to your whole installment, but maybe couldn't get your hand over it, like some kind of thought, or you were always like, this is a complete package, we don't need someone, or have you ever thought that someone else can give it a little bit push or something like that?
Well, we've always been open to, I mean, like Ganesh Ji is a recent addition, by recent I mean is maybe 3 years or so. We've, well,
Is there someone you wished who played with you but you couldn't really team up with because of circumstances?
I mean, we had the great Hari Prasad Ji perform with us. We had the great Pandit Shiv Kumar Sharma perform with us.
2000, they were all there.
They were all there. Devashish Bhattacharya from Kolkata played with us, and
Bhavani Shankar was there.
Bhavani Shankar and all.
This was the first time Shankar played with us.
Yeah, also. So there has always been an attempt to be able to include other musicians into the process. And then over the years, like when Ganesh Ji played with John Bhai and me 24 years ago at the Cannes Film Festival, actually, there was a film that I had done music for called Vanaprastham, and it was premiering at the Cannes, and they asked us to do some concert. So I invited Ganesh and Kumresh Ji, and John Ji, who lives, you know, a few miles down the coast, generously came by and brought his guitar, and we all played together. And it took a while for this to evolve until we finally got to the point where Ganesh Ji was asked to join us, Selva, same way. So it's got to be that we all have to be convinced that yes, here's somebody who can be sitting with us, and the cocktail mix is such that you don't really know by looking at it what's inside of it, but the taste is one.
Thank you very much.
No, there was just one other aspect, that when we lost Srinivas Ji in 2014, really the group fell apart because one person missing. This is how strong the collective feeling is when one person is missing, and to lose him with death. This was a colossal tragedy for the group. So it took years to actually get over it.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan. Sadly, that's all we have time for today. This doesn't happen every day. We are very grateful for your time. And thank you. You've been a wonderful audience. Shakti is performing later in the evening at CCFC. I'm sure all of us will be there. Thank you.
Thank you very much for a wonderful session. I don't know whether this has ever happened before, but to hear you all speak about your journey was wonderful.